Hello everyone, this is an idea I had this morning, and is to build a periodic table of personal knowledge management process. So the idea came from seeing this metaphor of periodic table element, what we use for the atoms and the molecules. I saw this being used for SEO in a post this morning, and I saw it as well being used for Google material components, the new generation of user UX, user components for web design. So it looks pretty much like this. It's a big table, and in physics, because this is something that comes from physics, it's divided by 8 as far as I remember. Maybe it depends on which size, doesn't matter so much. Okay, here it is. Okay, and then we have lines at each levels. Not all the cells are full. Normally it's supposed to be more or less rectangles of the same size. So it's going to be something like this. Okay, no matter what. And I had this idea because I was thinking about all the possible process that we could use in learning, in sharing, in building and creating knowledge from various readings I have and various books I was reading. And this was floating a little bit in my head, and also I was wondering of what we are going to do with the 8 months of PKM chat recaps. I mean, we had during these 8 months, it will be like 30 Twitter chat that we had, each on a different topic, and all together they form like a map, like a systematic exploration of various techniques and various process that could take place to extract and to share and to learn. And I was searching for a way to represent it. Also, I see this as being a kind of activity that could take place during the summer break. PKM Chat is going to go in summer recess from 15th of July until after 15th of August. And well, first, it's not summer for all of us. Some of us are in winter at that time, so they don't really have long summer holidays, and not everyone enjoy the 2 months holidays that people have in France, including me. I don't have this holiday, so this could be an activity that we could start for these months of summer. So this is how it goes. On the higher hand of the elements, we have the very personal. This level here is what happened inside individual minds. The type of activities of knowledge process activities that could take place within one person's mind. And this is personal knowledge management in the sense that it's done by one single person, but it has something visible from outside. And the lower we go into the periodic table, the more people will be included into the activity. So here at the very bottom we have worldwide. So in the worldwide activities, we could imagine something like contributing to Wikipedia. Or we could imagine Twitter chats. But, well, Twitter chat, I'm not sure it's really true, because my idea here on this was really the number of people who are acting, agent of the activity. And then from left to right, so somewhere in the middle here, we have organization, level, activity, and we have team groups. When we speak about team groups, we imagine something like so here we have 1, and here we have maybe 15 per people. And organization, we imagine something going from 15 to, let's say, 500 to maximum, and then it becomes almost everybody. And from the left side, we are talking about mostly learning, and on the right side we are talking mostly about sharing. And so somewhere in the middle, it's going to be something about organizing, or possibly creating. My idea is not yet very clear. It's subject to changes, and it's open to suggestions and to ideation for maybe one. At the beginning, I was tempted to use this side as being PKM, and this side as being OKM. It would have fit a little bit with the image, with the drawing that Harold Jarkey did some time ago, where you could see that PKM and OKM being the two ends of a global knowledge management activities taking place. But if we want to keep the physical, the metaphor from the physical world, the top of the periodic table are lightweight elements. And the bottom are the heavy elements. So that's the reason why I use this, the personal knowledge management being more the top of the picture, and the bottom being more the heavy, means involving large quantity of people. And so once the idea and the concept has been, the general layout has been agreed, the idea would be to create for each of these elements a little card describing, like we describe atoms, so it would be atoms of hydrogen, atoms of oxygen, or atoms of iron, or whatever. We are going to do a small, very short description of what is in there. What I mean, the description will be like a tweet, 140 characters. And maybe we are going to do a little drawing. So let's say if the activity is reading, today is the PKM chat on sketch notes, so I'm very interested in finding good drawings for all these concepts. So typically in sketch notes, you will start to try to find representation, to find sketches for rather simple stuff. So a pen, a chair, a table, a book, and so on. So this is cool. Now here we are in a much more complex situation, where each of these cells are going to be activities, process or activities. So first, it's something dynamic. It's not book, it's reading. It's not a blog, it's writing a blog. Different. It's really activities. So it implies that drawing such activities is already something challenging. If we can come out as a group activity of the PKM chatters during the summer, of having some kind of agreed pictures on 50 or 60 activities related to learning, sharing, knowledge, creation, that would be already something very interesting and very constructive for the rest, for making progress for the next year. And then next activity will be to find links. So for this we can use Digo. We have this Digo group, and so we can imagine that we try to find as many links we can on good sources for each of these activities. So let's say if the activity is curation, that could be one activity. One activity could be, I'm placing them a little bit anywhere. One activity could be wall, or one activity could be wall circle. That's going to be, so the wall circle will be more on the learning activity, while the wall purely will be more on the sharing side of the individual. It's something which is done by one person. What could be imagined? We could imagine that we have social learning. So social learning will be more here, because it takes place with several people. It's a majority of the activity is oriented toward learning. We could imagine that we have here a community of inquiry, which are maybe partially learning, partially sharing. And so for each of these activities we will have a list of links, and we could imagine also to have a list of tweets. And this is something interesting, is to go back into the archive that I have, all the Learn chat and PKM chat and Oslearn and whatever that happened during this last year, and using search, and using because we know that at this time of year there was a topic on this subject, and so on and so on. We can locate individual tweets which are especially relevant on the topic. And we can also identify people, because it's interesting to have people, and we can even build lists of people for each of these topics, because just by following the people and following the list, we are going to stay updated on the topic, to see what's current, what's coming new on the topic. And my idea was also to assign some kind, like we have on periodic maps, on periodic table, we have a certain number of, we have a few numbers that indicate, that give some intrinsic idea of how this particular activity reacts. So for atoms we have the number of electrons, we have the number of protons, the number of neutrons, the weight of the molecule of the atom. So here we could imagine, and that was my first idea, was to have an indicator of the virality of the activity. What I call the virality of the activity is a certain number of people are going to be the agent of the activity. Like, for example, if I'm writing a blog, there will be one author. So here we are indicated by the level of the activity. We are indicated, giving a rough idea of how many people are acting to do it. So if it's one person, for blogging is likely to be somewhere here. So it could be here, it could be here, doesn't matter so much. It's not so rigid. But what is important, if I was doing the card for blogging, what is important is that the virality is extremely high. I don't know, let's say for one post that you blog, if you are not a celebrity, of course, but if you are the average guy, maybe you will have, let's say, 100 readers. So the virality I would put is 100. Or we could describe it a different way. We could say how many people are going to be moved. So this will be audience, really, yes. And the virality for me would be more how many people are going to be moved, how many people are going to take action based on what they read. They will take action because they will blog a response, or they will comment, or they will take what they understood from what you wrote and they will apply it to their job. That's what I call the virality. If you have about 100 readers, it's likely that the virality for blogging is going to be somewhere between 5 and 10. Let's say 10. So the virality gives also an idea of how social is the activity. A very social activity is going to have a high virality because many other people are going to not only to watch but also to take action and to engage in the same activity on their own. Another idea was the stability. I'm using stability because I'm comparing with the atoms. You have some forms of atoms, some forms of isotopes of atoms have a very short life, and it's a little bit the same with some activities. Let's say if you are doing a Google Hangout, for example, you have a certain number of people who are around the table, or you are using this new application like Periscope or Meerkat. Things are going to happen in one moment. It's really in the present, and people are reacting not fully prepared. They are reacting very naturally, very directly to what other people are saying. It's very interesting, but it doesn't last a long time unless somebody is taking care of taking what was said and extracting the best pieces of it, which is a curation activity. If you are just taking the activity of the panel or the discussion that takes place, the stability is rather small. So if I take the example of blogging, for example, the stability is very high. If we talk about in terms of how many, let's say, days, you could say that a blog post is likely to last 500 days, a little bit more than just an idea. Why not more than that? Well, we don't know what is going to happen in the future for blogging, but it's also true that it's likely that somebody else is going to write a better post on the same topic with more new ideas and more current feedback, and so your post is going to lose its influence slowly and slowly. So this is another indication we could have on a card, and maybe something else, I don't know. So for example, on blogging we'll have these figures, we'll have a small description, we'll have a small picture, or possibly several pictures, but we'll keep one for the purpose of this work. Maybe a roll of paper and somebody writing on it. And we will have interesting tweets related to this activity, and we will have interesting people. So here it will not be people who blog, it will be people who blog about blogging. Yeah? Maybe we will have a list of interesting tweets. Maybe we'll have a collection of lists on Lego. and that will be the card. Next, interesting activities that could be done behind that is so basically on the result of the activity will be a web page where the whole map will be visible, and when you click on each element, you will have showing up a detailed card for the activity, and the whole thing will be collectively done and will be available in Creative Commons as share alike with no commercial restriction, because half of us are working in commercial business and we don't want to be limited by what we just created. So it will be open for everybody to use, being commercial or not. The second thing that is very interesting with this idea is that we are going to think about combination of activity. Here we have elementary, like the atoms. But next thing will be what will going to happen, for example, if I combine blogging and curation, for example. Okay, so I have the activity blogging and I have the activity curation. Do they have something interesting? What are the possibilities that they assemble? So they could assemble in different configurations, exactly like we have in the atom. You can have blogging and curation just being curation being an activity in the blogging in particular. It means that in some blogs you will have blog posts that will be just curation of other blog posts. Or we can have the fact that one person is doing the blogging and others are doing curation, and what are the interaction taking place. Or we can have somewhere in the learning somewhere. So it's not very easy to define if it's more learning or more sharing or whatever. But it's just a metaphor. It's just an idea. It's not a framework. It's not something that imposes a way of thinking. It's a representation of something that exists. Exactly like in physics. In physics, it started the same way. People thought that the atoms were really done like this, and the electron were a really little piece of matter going around the atoms. Afterward, people realized that it was really also waves and vibrations and light, and that the numbers that were the weight of the atoms and the weight of the electrons had to take into account probability. And so it started as being integers, but it's really decimal now, and we could do exactly the same. It's just a representation. It's not something which is limiting in the formality. However, here we can imagine we have bookmarking or social bookmarking, as we talked about a few weeks ago. So if I take the activity of social bookmarking and if I take the activity of blogging, the two can coexist, can combine into a single process, which is the findings. Part of the time of the week I'm collecting my bookmarks, I'm sharing them on Digo, but let's say every Friday, like I think Harold is doing it, Friday Finding, but Sandrine Marois is doing it also with her roundups. It consists of taking a certain number of posts that were interesting in one topic and to build one post with such a topic by aggregating a few links without giving too much details on each link. It's just I find this, I find this, I find this. So there is a molecule taking place, and this molecule becomes a molecule finding. A little bit like if you combine hydrogen and you combine oxygen, you will have the molecule of water. Is it more from bookmarking, more from blogging? Depends. So this is an idea of activity that could take place while the PKM chat is on recess. You can imagine it, you can call it like the summer camp of PKM chat. Could be a good way to see it. Open to everyone, and the result will be available for everyone as well. That's the idea.